Chapter 49. The Storm Within Us. The council chamber was colder than usual. Not from weather. The storm above had not yet broken through the mountain, but from intent. The stone walls, usually humming faintly with protective wards, now held only silence. Magic had been drawn inward, locked behind layers of command and secrecy. Mirren stood at the center of the circle, her robe soaked through from the rain outside. She hadn't dried them. She wanted them to see, to feel the weight of her urgency. "This is not a punishment," she said, voice ringing against the stone. "It's a safeguard." Several council members stood at her back. Others watched in uneasy silence, hands folded, lips pressed thin. High Warden Elias glanced toward the rune-etched arch behind Mirren, where the severance spell pulsed faintly. It wasn't like their usual wards. It was older, braided into a scroll that shimmered in unnatural colors. Violet, rust, ash. "You know what she's becoming," Mirren continued. Pacing slowly around the center sigil, the hollow opened because of her. "The dragon magic has fused beyond our understanding. Her unborn child is already threaded with that same fire. She's not dangerous." Someone muttered near the edge of the room. Maybe Thalin, maybe Alwyn. Mirren turned on them. "She's unpredictable. That is worse." No one replied. The air itself seemed to wait. "The spell will not harm her," Mirren said next, though she didn't sound convinced. "It severs nothing physical. It only weakens the tether, the bond between the mother, the child, and the ancient flame trying to anchor itself through them both." Elias finally stepped forward. "And if the tether holds stronger than expected?" Mirren hesitated. The pause was enough. Then she said, "Then the hollow itself will respond. If it sees her as a threat, it may finish what we begin." Murmurs swept the chamber. Some voices raised. Some lowered in prayer. Above them the mountain trembled. And far from the chamber, down through soil, rock, and sacred root, the first whisper of the spell stirred. Not loud, not fast, just present. And in a cottage far from that council hall, Decima flinched, her hand flying to her belly, her breath catching like a fire choking on its own smoke. Decima was in the sanctuary when it struck. One moment she was speaking softly to Serenfai, her hand against the dragon's warm flank, feeling the thrum of life beneath scale and sinew. The next, she staggered. Her breath caught mid-sentence. Her spine arched forward, and her hand shot to her belly, fingers splayed, as if she could hold the pain inside her from spilling out. But it wasn't pain exactly, not the sharp kind, not physical. It was a pull, like something invisible had wrapped around her chest and begun to tug, gently, insistently, trying to peel a part of her away. Serenfai reared back, golden eyes flaring. Decima. Daniel was at her side in seconds. He hadn't seen it happen, hadn't felt the spell, but the moment she gasped, he moved. "What is it?" His hand gripped her shoulder, grounding her. She didn't answer. She couldn't. The force clawed deeper now, into her breath, her bones, her bond. It wasn't an attack she could see. There were no soldiers, no claws, no spell circle glowing at her feet. Just a thread, somewhere far away being cut. Her knees buckled. Serenfai let out a sound, half roar, half scream, that vibrated the ground beneath them. And then Decima spoke, barely audible through clenched teeth. "They're doing something." "Who?" Daniel demanded. "What's happening?" Her eyes met his, wide and dark. "The council. They're trying to sever the bond." Thunder echoed again, except it wasn't above them. It was inside her. A jolt like lightning cracked through her ribs. Her hands flared with blue light, uncontrolled, as if her magic didn't know where to go. Daniel caught her before she fell fully, cradling her against his chest, his jaw tight with helpless rage. "Tell me what to do." But she didn't know. The child inside her twisted, not in pain but in protest, like something ancient was trying to stay tethered, fighting to remain whole. Her voice broke. "They're not just cutting me. They're cutting him." Daniel's fingers clenched around her back. "Not again," he whispered. "They don't get to take anything from you again." The runes on the hollow walls flickered. Deep beneath the sanctuary, where Decima had once felt the quiet memory of ancient fire, something began to stir. Not a creature, not even a voice. Just pressure, slow, rhythmic, like breath behind stone. A heartbeat that wasn't hers, one that answered. Serenfei turned sharply, wings flaring slightly, as if something unseen had entered the space with them. "The ground," she growled. "It's shifting." Daniel knelt beside Dekima, still holding her upright, still waiting for orders she couldn't give. Her skin burned where his hands touched her. Not from heat, but from raw, vibrating magic. Her eyes were distant, unfocused. Not unconscious, but pulled elsewhere. Her body remained in the sanctuary, but part of her had sunk deeper, tethered to something older. The hollow. The council's spell was cutting across the bond, but the hollow was waking in reply. Far away, in the inner chamber of the council's fortress, a sigil flared red-hot in the center of the severing circle. Marin's eyes narrowed, sweat beating at his temple. "She's resisting," he said tightly. One of the elders stepped forward. "That's not possible. She doesn't even know where we're anchoring it." Marin didn't reply. He didn't need to. The sigil cracked, just slightly, under the pressure of a force they hadn't accounted for. Decima, or worse, what lived inside her. Back in the sanctuary, Decima's lips parted. She wasn't breathing through her lungs anymore. She was breathing through something deeper, something that wasn't just human. Her dragon blood, her soulbound fire, and something ancient beneath the hollow heard it. The ley lines trembled. Serenfei snarled, stepping between Decima and the altar. Her wings lit faintly with blue-gold light. "They're cutting what doesn't belong to them," she hissed. "Let them try." Daniel stood now, sword still untouched, but his aura sharpening. "Can you stop it?" "I can't," Serenfei said, "but I can guide it." Then, a crack, low and deep, echoed through the roots below them. It wasn't the council's doing. It was the hollow itself pulling back, responding, not to the council, but to her, to Decima, and in the next breath, her body arched back violently, as if some massive force had slammed through her spine, not harming her, but realigning her. Daniel moved to catch her, but didn't touch her. He could feel it now, too. Something else had entered the space, and it wasn't done answering. The council chamber pulsed with magic. At the center of the ancient stone floor, a sigil burned, intricate, spiraling, alive with old power. Marin stood over it, hands raised, robes drifting around her like water caught in current. Her eyes were fixed. Too calm, too sure. Around her, the other council members formed a silent ring, each bound by oath and fear. None spoke. None dared stop her. Above the sigil, a single strand of shimmering light hovered in the air. Not rope, not fire. A thread, spun from soul-bond essence, too delicate for the eye, too strong for the world to bear undone. "This is for the realm," Marin said aloud. Not to anyone in particular, but to the room itself, as if that absolved her. "She's no longer stable. The dragons listen only to her. She's unbalancing everything we built." A younger council member swallowed. "But if you sever it," Marin turned sharply. "We don't sever her. We sever the bond. That child was never meant to carry two legacies. It's tainted with dragon blood and prophecy. If we don't act now, we lose all control." The strand pulsed. Somewhere far away, Decima cried out. The sigil flared. Marin raised both arms higher, the spell crescendoing in her throat. She wasn't chanting words anymore. She was reciting runes, syllables buried in the oldest spellbooks, ones etched in stone and hidden even from the high archives. The shimmer thread above the floor twisted. Once, twice. It was working. She could feel it bending, splitting, the soul strand fraying. But then, the chamber lights dimmed. Not physically, not magically, but as if something older had stepped into the room. Marin froze. So did the others. Because from the farthest corner of the chamber, something was watching. Not a person. Not even a creature, but an echo of something ancient, pulled through time and memory, answering a blood call. And it was furious. The council chamber pulsed with magic. At the center of the ancient stone floor, a sigil burned, intricate, spiraling, alive with old power. Marin stood over it, hands raised, robes drifting around her like water caught in current. Her eyes were fixed. Too calm, too sure. Around her, the other council members formed a silent ring, each bound by oath and fear. None spoke. None dared stop her. Above the sigil, a single strand of shimmering light hovered in the air. Not rope, not fire. A thread, spun from soul-bond essence, too delicate for the eye, too strong for the world to bear undone. "This is for the realm," Marin said aloud. Not to anyone in particular, but to the room itself, as if that absolved her. "She's no longer stable. The dragons listen only to her. She's unbalancing everything we built. A younger council member swallowed. But if you sever it, Marin turned sharply. We don't sever her. We sever the bond. That child was never meant to carry two legacies. It's tainted with dragon blood and prophecy. If we don't act now, we lose all control. The strand pulsed. Somewhere far away, Decima cried out. The sigil flared. Marin raised both arms higher, the spell crescendoing in her throat. She wasn't chanting words anymore. She was reciting runes, syllables buried in the oldest spellbooks, ones etched in stone and hidden even from the high archives. The shimmer thread above the floor twisted. Once, twice. It was working. She could feel it bending, splitting, the soul strand fraying. But then, the chamber lights dimmed. Not physically, not magically, but as if something older had stepped into the room. Marin froze. So did the others. Because from the farthest corner of the chamber, something was watching. Not a person. Not even a creature, but an echo of something ancient, pulled through time and memory, answering a blood call. And it was furious. The echo moved. Not across the floor, through it. A low hum rose from the foundation stones of the chamber, and the sigil flared again. Not with Marin's magic, but with something wilder. Something boundless. The soul thread twisted midair, resisting. Marin gritted her teeth. Hold it, hold the focus. But the light rippled, recoiling like a whip, and then burning through it. Not fire, but dragonlight. A counterpulse struck the chamber. A flash of white gold heat, raw and ancestral, blasted through the weave. Several council members stumbled back, robes scorched, wards cracking. In the sanctuary miles away, Serenfe's wings spread wide, not in defense, but invocation. Her body glowed from within, veins tracing draconic runes that hadn't appeared since the age of First Flame. Her voice thundered through the bond, reaching both Decima and Daniel. No more. The bond, wounded, yes, but not severed, surged back toward connection. Decima gasped as breath flooded her lungs again. The pull eased. Daniel's arms tightened around her, feeling the shift. They didn't finish it, he whispered. No, Decima breathed. Serenfe stopped it. In the council chamber, Marin's arms dropped, her breath ragged. The soul thread had retracted, not broken, but pulled beyond her reach. The sigil sputtered out, and from the deep shadow that had appeared in the corner of the room, a voice finally spoke. All heads turned toward the voice. It didn't echo. It settled, like dust after a long-forgotten collapse. Marin stepped back from the sigil, her cloak shifting with the motion. Her mouth opened to speak, but nothing came, because she recognized the figure emerging from the edge of the chamber. Not entirely woman, not entirely shadow. The Watcher. White hair fell over a burned cheek, and eyes once lost to fire burned brighter than any rune. The council gasped as Marin's sister stepped forward, no longer shrouded by illusion. Karis! Someone breathed, but it wasn't a welcome. The woman's smile held no warmth. You called yourselves protectors, but you've been hiding behind spells that don't belong to you. One of the elder witches whispered a binding charm, but it fizzled in the air, dead before it formed. The magic here now was deeper than council craft. Enough, Marin said, finding her voice. This is a council matter. But Karis only tilted her head. Then maybe you shouldn't have tried to cut a soul that didn't belong to you. She turned her gaze to the hollow floor where the ritual had taken place. To break a bond like that is to violate every rule the council claims to uphold. You were warned. Her eyes fell on the others. And you all let her do it. The air behind Karis shimmered, and the sigil reignited, not with blood or fire, but starlight. A new rune formed in its center, one the council hadn't seen in centuries. It pulsed once, then went still. The light from the sigil didn't flicker like flame or glow like embers. It shimmered, cool, ancient, otherworldly, as if pulled from the sky itself. Karis stepped forward, kneeling beside the runes Marin had drawn. Her fingers, unburned despite the raw magic pulsing below, hovered above the markings. You've twisted it, she said quietly. But the bones of it are still old, still sacred. Marin's voice came tight with control. You don't understand what she's become. I understand exactly, Karis said without looking up. She became what you feared, what you could never be, and now you've handed her child's soul to something worse. The mention of the child made even the bravest council member flinch. She was never meant to carry this, Marin spat. The The prophecy was warped. Her line, it wasn't supposed to, but it did. Karis's gaze snapped up, ice in her tone. And instead of guiding her, you tried to break her. Silence fell again, until a new sound rose, pulsing, from deep beneath the hollow. A hum in the stone, in the ley lines, in the veins of anyone still bound to the land. Karis pressed both palms flat to the sigil. You forget I helped write the original version of this spell, long before it was twisted by council hands. Marin's lips parted in disbelief. That's not possible. That ritual was buried. Not buried. Karis looked at her. Stolen. Like everything else the council feared it couldn't control. The runes lit beneath her hands, shifting, unbinding. Marin screamed. Not in fear, in fury, but it was too late. The reversal had already begun. Decima gasped and straightened. The pull inside her, that tearing sensation, had stopped mid-breath. Not eased, not ended, stopped, as if frozen mid-strike, by something stronger than the force that started it. Daniel was still holding her, his arms locked around her back, but she didn't feel fragile anymore. She felt charged. Her body didn't tremble with weakness. It burned with awareness. Sarenfe's golden eyes widened. Something has shifted. I felt it too, Decima whispered. The dragon moved closer, her breath stirring the grass. There is an echo in the bond, like someone tried to cut it and failed. A crack formed, but something healed it. Daniel helped Decima stand. What does that mean? Is it over? She didn't answer. She was staring at her arms. Veins of silver and gold shimmered beneath her skin. Not glowing fully, but outlined, as if etched by invisible fire. No, she said. Not over. She looked up toward the hollow. Though it was far from the sanctuary, she could feel its vibration in her blood. Something had been undone, but not erased. Karis, Decima said suddenly. I think she found the spell. I think she reversed it. Sarenfe's jaw tightened. If she did, she'll be hunted for it. Daniel nodded grimly. Then we don't wait. We go to her. Decima shook her head. We can't, not yet. The council will be watching every path. Every ley crossing. If we're caught, they'll try again, Daniel finished. His eyes were fire, and next time they might not miss. The air around them stirred, soft at first, then with rising pressure, like the world itself inhaled. Decima took a slow breath. I need to go deeper. Into the flame. Daniel blinked. What? She turned to Sarenfe. You said the bond was cracked. Not broken, but the only way to stop them from trying again is if the bond becomes unbreakable. Sarenfe lowered her head. Then you will need the place of origin. Daniel stepped forward. The heart? The dragon's gaze sharpened. Yes. Decima didn't flinch. Then we go. The way to the heart was not marked on any map. It existed between pulses, in the silence between dragon breaths, in the fold of ley lines that even the council feared to touch. Sarenfe called it Kalantan, the fire heart, and only those born of dragon blood could walk its threads without burning. Decima stood at the edge of the flame-veined ridge, the earth beneath her already humming. Daniel was behind her, quiet, waiting, not pushing. I won't ask you to follow, she said without turning. Not this time. You don't have to ask, he replied. You already know I will. She closed her eyes. The bond between them, still fragile from the attempted severing, pulsed like a raw nerve. It would hold, but only if she let herself burn for it. Sarenfe extended her wings, casting a vast shadow over the hillside. Once you begin the descent, there is no turning back. The heart tests your will, your truth, and your fear. I know, Decima said. Daniel took her hand. Then we go together. They stepped into the shimmer. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the ground beneath them fractured, not violently, but with precision, like ancient stone remembering its shape. Symbols rose in the air, not glowing, not drawn, etched in silence. Dragon script older than the witches' council, older even than the first flame. A gateway opened, not with doors, but with light peeling backward like dawn through shadow. Daniel gripped her hand tighter. Where does it lead? To what we are, she whispered. To what we were always meant to be. They stepped through. The world bent around them. Heat without flame, light without sun, and far ahead in the distance of memory and magic, the heart waited. The sanctuary shook. Not with violence, but with power, like a heartbeat too loud to ignore. Sarenfe let out a low growl that rose into a howl. her wings flaring wide as gold light rippled across her scales. Her tail lashed once against the stone. "It's coming undone," she hissed. Decima clung to Daniel, her magic wild beneath her skin. Her body wasn't breaking, and it was changing. Like something dormant inside her had been woken too early. "They touched the bond," she gasped, "but they didn't understand what it was." Daniel's arms tightened around her. "Then show them." Sarenfe leaned in close, her head lowering until her brow touched. "Decima's, you carry more than just blood. You carry the flame they tried to bury." Decima blinked through the tears. "Then I need to burn." She rose unsteadily, her breath shaking, her hands glowing brighter than before. Not blue now, not pure witchlight, but dragonfire. The air thickened. A pulse echoed from within her, not from her magic, but from something older. The bond, the soul thread. Whatever they had tried to sever, it had fought back. It had burned a path straight into the roots of the world. Daniel stepped back just enough to look at her fully. She wasn't just glowing. She was shifting. Her eyes had turned to molten gold. Her skin shimmered with light patterns. Runes not drawn, but born. Sarenfe bowed low, wings spread wide, her voice shaking. The firebound have awakened, and somewhere far from the sanctuary, deep in the hollow, Maren felt the spell snap back like a whip. And she screamed. The hollow didn't just tremble. It screamed. Cracks split the stone beneath the sigil, not from the unbinding alone, but from the force rushing back toward it. Energy that should have been severed was now flooding home, racing like a river down the wrong path. Maren stumbled backward, arms raised as if she could hold back the collapse with will alone. She couldn't. Around her the walls groaned. Ancient glyphs, once dormant, flared in warning, gold, silver, then red. One by one they fractured. "What did you do?" she snarled, voice hoarse. Karis didn't answer. She was focused on the center of the circle, where the last of the corrupted runes shattered. Her fingers were bloodied now, not from magic but from digging too deep, too long into something meant to stay forgotten. Behind them, other witches screamed. The chamber pulsed with panic. Not just from the spell's failure, but from something else. A presence, a return. "He's coming," one whispered. Maren whipped her head around. "Who?" But she already knew. The fire beneath the hollow didn't feel like flame anymore. It felt like breath, hot, close, alive. "Elrix," Karis said quietly. "You didn't just invite him in. You gave him a door." The ground split. From it rose not a dragon, but a shape made of bone light and shadow, flickering like a memory on the edge of death. A mouth opened where no face should be, and it spoke Maren's name. Her legs buckled. Not from reverence, from fear. The wind that passed through the sanctuary wasn't air anymore. It was memory, fireborn, soulbound. Decima stood at the center of it, not unchanged, but remade. The mark on her wrist shimmered like a live ember, no longer just a symbol of binding, but a sigil of defiance. Where pain had once lived, now came clarity. Where weakness had lived, now came flame. Sarenfe circled slowly, protective, reverent. "The spell has broken, but not without cost." Daniel's gaze darted across Decima's face, searching, not for injury, but for her. "Are you still with me?" She nodded, though her eyes didn't leave the horizon. Something shattered, but not just in me. Beneath their feet, the ley lines no longer trembled in fear. They pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Far away, in the hollow's ruined chamber, the shattered sigil smoldered. Maren lay sprawled across the stone, eyes wide with disbelief, hands blistered from backlash. The others, the remaining council witches, had fled or fallen. Only Karis remained standing, breath steady, palms still glowing faintly from the spell's reversal. "You called on forces you couldn't hold," Karis said softly. Maren didn't reply. Her voice had gone. Her power burned through. But the worst part wasn't the silence. It was the knowledge. She had failed. And worse, Decima had risen. Back in the sanctuary, Decima finally exhaled. "They'll come again," she said. "With something worse. They'll never stop." "Then we make sure they can't," Daniel said. Sarenfe lowered her head, touching both of them. "We do not run from war. We fly toward it." The three of them stood in the circle of scorched stone and light, their bond no longer just a thread, but a flame. And far below, in the deep roots of the land, something ancient stirred. It had seen the fire, and it had remembered her name. The hollow was silent now, not the silence of peace, but of something holding its breath. Karis stood alone beneath the fractured vault, the last of the sigil's glow fading at her feet. Her eyes didn't leave Marin, who still lay motionless, her once imposing presence reduced to ash-scattered robes and trembling limbs. Behind her, the stone began to weep, slow drips of residual magic leaking from the broken roots of the hollow itself. "It's done," Karis whispered. "But it's not over." A faint echo rippled through the ground. Not footsteps, not speech, a memory, a warning. Karis turned her face toward the crack in the far wall, the one no spell could fully close now. Within its jagged edges, something pulsed once, dim and red, watching, waiting. Back in the sanctuary, Decima stood tall, the last of the stormlight fading from her veins. Her hands flexed once, then closed. Not in fear, in preparation. Daniel stood at her side, his gaze steady, no longer questioning what she was, only what came next. Above them, Serenfe's wings spread wide, catching the light of a sky that no longer looked entirely like it belonged to this world. "There's a reckoning coming," the dragon said, "and it knows her name now." Decima looked toward the clouds, not afraid, but ready. The world hadn't just shifted. It had chosen a side, and this time it had chosen her.